Okay, so in this lesson, we're going to talk about tip. Okay, what a tip is, and how do we calculate tip? Okay, all right. So basically, so tip. The definition of a tip, right, is basically when you give money to somebody to like when they perform a service, you give a percentage of your money when somebody does a service for you, right? So for example, let's say you go to a restaurant and you get some food in the restaurant, right? And the waiter, like, does a very, they do a very good job. They go and um, they do, they give you your meal, they give you your stuff, they provide really good service, right? And then you say, okay, well, I'm going to give the waiter or give the waitress some money because they did a really good job. Or let's say, for example, like you go to a barber shop, you get a haircut or something, and they do a really good job, and you say, okay, like I'm gonna give the barber, some money. Extra, I'm gonna give somebody an extra money because they did a really good job, right? So that's what a tip is, right? A tip is basically when you give the person, extra money or percentage of your money in addition to whatever it is that you already paid for the service, right? Now, in a restaurant context, right, you'll find that if you say that there's another word for tip, right? The other word for tip is gratuity. So like if you go to a restaurant, it may say something like, tip or gratuity. You might see the word gratuity also. So gratuity also means tip. Like you paid a gratuity of 18%. You paid a gratuity of such and such and such. But usually the word gratuity is used in like a restaurant context, and a tip is more like used in a more like general, everyday to day type of context, right? So basically, when you're doing tip or when you're calculating tip, right? When you calculate tip, you have to calculate it based on whatever you want the percentage to be, right? So for example, let's use an example, right? So let's say, for example, right? Let's say you go to the store, you go to a restaurant, and let's say you order some food, right? Let's say you order some food, and let's say that the price of the food, is let's say the price of the food is $20, right? Or 20 US dollar, right? And let's say the restaurant says, okay, like, the price is $20 for the food, and that when you pay for the food, that the tip is, let's say the tip is 15%, right? You're paying a 50% gratuity, you're paying a 50% tip, right? And you look at your receipt, right? You go to the receipt, you look at the receipt, and you want to know, well, if if they tell me and they say, well, you know, the price is $20 and I'm paying 50%, then how much do I have to pay in total when I'm done eating my food, right? So in order for us to calculate this, we have to say, well, okay, it's the same concept as the final price concept, right? So basically, what you do is you say, well, okay, well, I have the original price, right? And I want to get the tip, whatever the tip is, equals to the final price. Now, since the original price in this example is $20, and they're saying that the tip or the gratuity is 50%, we know that 50% is 0.15, so we know that 0.15 of 20 is what, right? So we do the calculation, we do that 0.15 times 20 is 15 times 20. Do our multiplication, we know that this is 300, but remember, we have to move the decimal place. So this is $3. So so when we do it, we say, well, okay, well, we have 20 plus 3 is how much? And we know that it's 23, right? So we know that the final price is $23. right? And that the tip itself is $3, right? Here's another example. You go to the barbershop. The barbershop tells you that to get a haircut, that the haircut is $15, right? The barber does a really good job. They do your shape up, they do your stuff right, they do everything. They set you straight, right? So then you say, okay, well, the person does a really good job. I'm gonna give this person. Let's say you being like really generous. Let's say you being really generous, right? So you saying, okay, I'm gonna give the person a 20% tip, right? So then let me say, okay, so it's $15, 0.2 of 15 is how much, right? Do the same thing. Do 0.2 times 15. Remember that we write it, right? Move the decimal place. This is $3, right? So you know that 15 plus 3 is how much? Is $18, right? So we know that we're paying $18 for the whole service, and that the tip itself is $3, right? You get the general idea, right? So the general idea is that you take the original price plus the tip equals the final price, and that if we want to find the final price, we have to know like how much is the percentage for the tip in order for us to figure out what the tip is, right? And to figure out what the final price is, right? Let's do another example. Let's say you go to a shoe shine place. You want your shoes shined, right? And the person tells you and says, well, in order for you to shine your shoes, the shoe, the cost of the shining your shoes, let's say this is say, it's $10, right? So if I want to shine my shoes, shoe shine, the shoe shine is $10, right? And you say, okay, I'm gonna give a 20% tip at the end of the service, right? So we do the same thing. We say, okay, so we do $10 plus the tip, because this is the original price, plus the tip, which is 20% of 10 is how much, right? And we do, it's the final price, right? So we do 10 plus 0.2 of 10 is 20, right? Move the decimal place. That's how much. So then we do 10 plus 2 is what? And we know that the final price is $12, right? So we know that the final price is $12, and the tip is $2. Okay? That's basically it. Now, there's some questions that, or such situations, right, where they may ask something like if I know what the service, if I know what the original price is and I know what the final price is, right, how much was the tip itself? So they do ask some type of questions like that, right? I could do one example of that, but we want to get basically in this video we want to get what is the general idea of tip, and the general idea of tip is that basically you're paying a percentage of whatever it is to a person who's doing a service to you. Okay, so essentially, as I already said, that if you're doing tip, or the concept of tip basically is gratuity in a restaurant context. Tip is a gratuity in a restaurant sense, and then the regular everyday the day-to-day sense of tip is when you give it to anybody who's doing any type of service for you. Okay. It's also to note that some countries don't actually have tip, or it's not it could be seen as rude to give a tip. So in the United States, tip is a common thing in the United States, but depending on which country you go to, usually in Asia, they may find that if you give a tip, it's not actually it's kind of seen as rude. So, but that's beyond the scope of this video. But basically that's the general idea tip. If you have any additional questions, you can comment below, and that's basically it. Thank you. Have a nice day.